Mr. Biden, Mr. President, will you stand and say right now that an American child deserves better than a foreign child? I want you to answer that question.
That was earlier today. A former federal agent whose fight against child sex trafficking is the heart of this movie. This is his story, Sound of Freedom. And now he's on a new mission to even go further with this. He's teaming up with a congressman to help track down thousands of missing migrant children. Former Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard and New Jersey Republican Congressman Chris Smith join me now. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and thank you so much for being here today. So, Tim, you spent more than a decade working as a special agent for Homeland Security. You were assigned to the Internet Crimes Against Children Division. You were absolutely horrified by what you had to look at, what you saw in that work. And it led you to physically crossing the border and saving children and changing their lives forever. An extraordinary, extraordinary story. So tell me a little bit about what you were trying to get at there in your message to the president in that soundbite.
Well, Martha, it's shameful that I have to say this. I spent 12 years working for the U.S. government to rescue children, and now I have to, thanks to these policies, I have to now rescue children from the U.S. government. And I'm not talking about the agents on the border. They are on my side on this. They're being ordered to do things that are absolute insanity. These children who show up are released to whoever picks them up. Hardly anything is done. Almost zero vetting is done. And a U.S. child would receive much more than that. A U.S. child would be protected if they showed up unaccompanied in New York City, if they showed up in any city. How come we aren't affording the same protections to children who, to no fault of their own, are brought to the border and we just release them into a country, mind you, that is the #1 consumer of child sex material in the world? This is dangerous. This is a crisis, and I'm so grateful for this congressman right here, Chris Smith, who I've worked with for years, and he's done more on the legislative side to save children than probably anyone in the history of the United States, and I mean that.
He's a dedicated public servant on a number of fronts. And Tim, just staying with you for a moment. So these children, everyone sees these families, or often just children alone. They cross the border, and what does the Border Patrol do with them? Who do they release them to? And just give everybody a window into then what happens to these children.
So again, I've spent 10 years on this border. I've been there since. These children have to be released to Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services has to release them to whoever shows up as the sponsor. Sometimes these children come because the traffickers put a name, a piece of paper in their pocket, safety pin to their shirt. Health and Human Services, by mandate, because of the Biden administration, has to call that number, and they used to have to come pick the kids up. Not anymore. Now your taxpayer dollars are paying for what might be the last leg of a child trafficking experience. They call the number, they send the kid, and then the number just disappears. You can't follow up, and that kid is gone.
It's really unbelievable. So, Chris, Congressman Smith, our government, they're claiming that this is so compassionate, right, that we have to allow immigrants to cross the border. So this is an act of compassion. But the cartels are running this enormous operation, and it sounds like we are helping facilitate bringing little kids across the border so that they can be sold into sex slavery, and we're the intermediary. How does that happen in this country?
Well summed up. President Biden has claimed that this is compassionate. It is the polar opposite. It's the antithesis of compassion. The president of Guatemala told me a year and a half ago that 80% of all the women and children coming up from his country are sexually assaulted. There's an engraved invitation to bring people here. The cartels are making money. They're making billions. And the whole idea of forcing them into child sex trafficking or labor trafficking or both, it's everywhere. And as Tim said so well, and this man is an absolute hero. He has saved more kids from this agony, from this cruel modern day slavery. And I've written laws on it. He actually does it. He goes out and saves people, especially children. There's 85,000 unaccompanied minors that are unaccounted for. The administration won't tell us what happened to them. and they do this quick turnaround. You know, if this were adoptions, there would be a home study, there would be vetting of who it is that the children would be going with. That's nowhere to be found in this. It's very hurry up, get them out the door, and God forbid, they go into a trafficking situation, but we think they are. Yeah. This legislation would require, under penalty of losing funding to those agencies, to provide a full accounting, welfare and whereabouts of these children.
Here's a clip from The Sound of Freedom. Watch.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom.
Felt good.
You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale.
Tim, it's an extraordinary story, but I think it's important to give people, in the last moment that we have today, a sense of what is happening to these children once they're sold into slavery here in the United States, here in our country.
Oh, I've seen cases, Martha, of children being raped 10 to 20 times within a 24-hour period. That's the sex markets. That's the reality of the sex markets in places like New York City, Los Angeles. And that's the fate of these children who show up without a name, social security, identity. They're gone. They're in this. And like that line, you know, God's children are not for sale. That's how we should see all these children. It doesn't matter. Borders and boundaries, nationalities don't mean anything. Every child should be treated like a child of God, and this administration is not doing that.
Well, I hope your message got through to the president because, he's certainly a person who cares about children. I think everyone with a beating heart cares about children, but we need to act. We need to get in between the cartels, and we can't be helping them with this disgusting business that is ruining these children's lives. And God bless you for the work that you have done, Tim. And Congressman Smith, I thank you very much for the work that you're doing, committing yourself to this cause. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll stay on it
Thank you, Martha.
with your help.